I'm Larry Vogel with My Edmonds News. I recently had the chance to walk with Bill Phillips, who's a former Edmonds Parks Board member, down the Edmonds waterfront. Bill described all about how the waterfront developed from the former line of shingle mills to the parks that we all see and enjoy today. We brought Bill into the studio to talk a little bit more about this. Bill, you've been a teacher for the Edmonds School District for quite a while. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got this interest in science and biology and shorelines, and how you got into teaching here.
I like to teach. I enjoyed it. I thought for me that was a better deal than being a doctor. So I went through it and became a teacher.
So how did the whole thing about the Edmonds shoreline parks come into this?
Okay, well, how I came into it was that when we were married in 1951, and we bought a house up on Willis Project, which is off of Olympic Avenue and 10th Avenue up in Edmonds.
Okay.
And so my kids, I had two children, two girls, and then that whole area of 34 houses must have had, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 children. And so they had no place to play except down there. So they went down, and of course they complained to me because, Dad, there's a lot of rocks on here. We get knocked down all the time. We're getting hurt. So I went down to the city and I asked them, I said, could you help us out a little bit, because maybe you can bulldoze that thing, get some rid of the rocks, and maybe plant some grass. So they went ahead and planted grass. The students come back to complain to me. The kids complained to me again and says, Dad, and the rest of the kids in the neighborhood, they indicated there's no place to play, that we can't, no swings, no slides, no monkey bars. We can't do anything except just run around, chase each other. So I went down to the city. I said, it'd be nice if you could install some equipment for the children to play on. Well, they says, we'll go ahead and provide the equipment if you'll do the labor. I said, no problem. The mayor, Harv Harrison, I like Harv Harrison, a good mayor. He came and knocked on my door, and he says, Bill, I heard what you've been doing with the city. He says, you're so anxious to help out, getting things for the kids. I'd like to put you on the park board so you can continue that for the rest of the city. So that's how I became a park board member. But I think those park board members, I suggest, it's important for us to obtain property along the waterfront, because at that time, we didn't have any beach of any sort for the city of Edmonds for the kids to go to the...
Now, we're talking the early 50s here?
Early 50s. That's in 51, 50, 55.
Now, there were still operating shingle mills on the waterfront
well, the
at
shingle
that time,
mills,
were there not?
The last shingle mill closed on 1951.
Okay.
And it was perfect because then they got rid of all the equipment, and so there were empty buildings there. And so the owners put them up for sale, and they were available. Well, with the help of the federal government, HUD, with the help of the state, and help of the county, we were able to purchase that property. And I think at the price at that time was asking about $260,000 for it.
And that was the property
That
just
was the
north of the
Brackett's
ferry
Landing.
landing? That's where Brackett's Landing
that's
Park
where
is
Brackett's
today.
Landing is 400 feet, approximately, plus or minus, considering the fact of the layout of the land. About 400 feet going north from the ferry dock.
Okay.
And then it extends out in the water and includes the tidelands as well, going out.
Now, I remember you telling us that Brackett's Landing was not the original name of that
No,
park.
no.
What was it first called?
Well, what we did, we thought it would be nice to go ahead and name the parks according to the area in which they existed, so that people knew where they were. So we called it Sunset Beach, right along Sunset Street.
Sure.
That's simple.
Yeah.
And so therefore, we called it Sunset Beach. And later on, it was called Brackett's Landing. And I served 19 years on the Edmonds Park Board, and that was our first acquisition. And then after that, we decided that we'd like to get the tidelands that were running north, like I mentioned to you, primarily
Up toward Casper Street?
upper from Bell Street up to Casper, 2,000 feet of tidelands. But what happened was that a man named Mr. Pantley, I'm not sure if you remember Pantley's restaurant.
I do.
Okay, anyway, Pantley bought that property from Bud, and the buildings were destroyed, and they built a Pantley building, and they put a restaurant up on the second floor, and they called it Pantley's.
Yeah, I remember Pantley's
It was
restaurant, sure.
really, really classy,
Yeah.
So what happened when they built that building, he negotiated with the city that all he needed was just 10 feet of land next to the building so he could paint or want to do work on this building. The rest of that property, he deeded it to the City of Edmonds.
Okay.
And deeded all that property, including the tidelands, to the City of Edmonds. So that was the development of the Olympic Beach. And then the next thing we want to go to then is go back to this way, go back north again to pick up the senior center.
Okay.
The senior center was purchased by the city in 1974 and used for the seniors. And there was talk about, oh no, that's too good for the seniors, you know, they have no business being nice, expensive waterfront property, they should go elsewhere. But no, they insisted.
I could argue that.
They insisted, no, that was the best place for them to go, and it is the best place. And not only that, is the fact that the park department gets to all the people get to use the waterfront in front of the senior centers. Now, the senior center is for the seniors, but the beach is for everybody.
So now moving back down the beach a little bit, were you involved in anything like through the marina or down to Marina Beach at the very end?
Well, years ago, when we have Union Oil Company had a asphalt plant at the Union Oil Company, and they were making asphalt, and then the side things that were gasoline and kerosene, I guess, and they'd have ships come over there and pick up gasoline and take it
that
elsewhere.
was out there till just a few years ago. There was that large structure that went out into the water.
Right, it was there for the ships to come
Yeah.
in. And then what happened was that the asphalt, of course, they start producing asphalt, and so the Union Oil Company was considering closing. And so we were asking them if we could go ahead and buy the waterfront there for the City of Edmonds to make a beach. And they said, well, we can't sell it to you because when we do sell it, we're not exactly sure what we're going to do with the land. And so therefore, we'll go ahead and lease it to the city, for $1 a year. But we didn't buy that property until later on, when the Union Oil Company then finally decided they were going to sell their property, and then they decided to go ahead and sell the upland property on the hillside to the developer to build all those.
And that's Point Edwards now.
Point Edwards, which are all the condos.
Okay.
And then at that time, they sold the waterfront to the city for the park. So I forget now what we paid for it, but it was really a good deal. And so therefore now we have a beautiful park on that
So
end
now
of the
we've got
city.
parks stretching all along the Edmonds waterfront.
Exactly.
And you were part of the history of that.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
wonderful.
When I moved in 1951, we had no waterfront access for the citizens at all. And in 1979, when I retired from the park board, we had all those parks available all the way from Brackett's Landing all the way to the north.
So you were a key guy in making all this happen.
Well,
you know,
I was a member of the park board. Don't forget, there were 9 other guys.
as somebody who lives here in Edmonds and who walks along these parks all the time, I want to thank you for your work in
Thank you.
making this possible.
Oh, thank you very much.
I enjoy that every day.
Oh, good.
And I
glad
know
you-
a lot of other folks who live here in Edmonds do as
Oh,
well.
everybody enjoys that. It's fantastic.